Something just shifted, and it happened quietly, without warning. An obstacle that once felt permanent, a distraction, a distance, a doubt standing between you and someone meant for you, has started to fade. Not through force. Not through anything you had to fight for. Simply through time finally doing what time does best, clearing away what was never meant to stay. This is not an accident. If this video found you today, I don't believe that's random. Something in you has been sensing that a barrier in your life is finally beginning to dissolve, even if you can't yet see the full shape of what's changing. There is a reason your heart wouldn't let you scroll past this. Stay with me. Because today, I want to talk about the obstacles that stand between two people who are meant to find each other, and what it means when those obstacles finally begin to fall away, quietly, in their own time. Big news, if you're ready to hear it. Whatever has stood between you and someone meaningful, whether that's distance, timing, unfinished healing, or circumstances neither of you controlled, that obstacle is losing its grip. Not because anyone forced it to. Because its purpose in your story is finally coming to an end. Keep listening. Because what comes next might explain a shift you've already started to feel, even before you had words for it. Let's talk about why this message reached you today, of all days. You may not realize it, but you've been quietly releasing things lately. Old expectations. Old patterns. Maybe even old versions of a relationship you once held onto too tightly. That kind of release doesn't happen by accident. What if the timing of this exact moment, you, here, listening to this, lines up with something loosening its hold somewhere else, in a part of your story you can't yet see clearly? Think of a knot that's been tightly tied for a long time. For most of its life, it feels permanent, unmovable. But knots don't stay tight forever. Slowly, with enough time and the right kind of pressure, they begin to loosen, thread by thread, until one day, almost without noticing, they simply come undone. Whatever has felt like a knot in your story, whatever has kept two people from fully reaching each other, may be loosening exactly that way right now. Slowly. Quietly. Thread by thread. You may not fully see it yet. But something is coming undone. Let's talk about what this obstacle might actually be, because it rarely looks the way we expect. Sometimes what stands between two people isn't a rival or a specific person at all. Sometimes it's unfinished healing. Sometimes it's fear neither person has named out loud. Sometimes it's simply timing, two people not yet ready for each other, kept apart not out of malice, but out of necessity. I want to be honest with you, real love doesn't need anyone else to lose something for it to grow. If there is another person genuinely involved in this picture, the most meaningful path forward is never one built on someone else's pain, it's one where circumstances resolve naturally, honestly, and with respect for everyone involved. What if the obstacle you've sensed is less about another person, and more about the internal walls either of you built to protect yourselves from being hurt again? Walls like that don't need to be torn down by force. They simply need enough safety, enough time, and enough trust to be lowered on their own. You may already sense what this obstacle has looked like in your own story. Distance. Doubt. A lingering fear from the past. Whatever it is, notice how it feels just slightly less solid than it used to. Here's what may have been happening quietly, even while the obstacle still felt firmly in place. There are shifts that happen internally long before they show up as visible change. A person quietly outgrowing old fears. A situation slowly resolving itself without anyone forcing an outcome. A misunderstanding finally losing its power as both people grow enough to see things more clearly. These shifts don't guarantee a specific outcome, I want to be honest about that. No one can promise you an exact result, and I won't pretend otherwise. But they often reflect something real happening beneath the surface, a quiet unraveling of whatever has kept two people apart longer than necessary. Your angels, or whatever unseen guidance resonates with you, have been working patiently in the background. In the timing of conversations that finally happened honestly. In the space that opened up naturally, without anyone needing to force it. In the growth that quietly made room for something healthier to take shape. The obstacle you faced was never proof that you were meant to stay apart forever. It was simply something that needed time, healing, or clarity before it could fully resolve. Now let's talk about why this couldn't have resolved any sooner than now. Some obstacles exist to protect two people from connecting before they're ready to handle what that connection requires. If two hearts come together too soon, without the healing or clarity they needed first, that connection often struggles under weight it wasn't ready to carry. Imagine if whatever has stood between you had disappeared earlier, before enough growth had happened on either side. Would the connection have lasted? Or would old wounds and old patterns have quietly repeated themselves? What if the time this obstacle has taken to resolve was exactly the time needed for both of you to become people capable of building something healthy, instead of repeating something familiar but ultimately unfulfilling? The waiting had a purpose. Every difficult season, every unresolved tension, was quietly doing the work of preparing both of you for something steadier than what came before. So why does this obstacle seem to be resolving now, at this exact point? Because something in you has shifted. Quietly. Gradually. You've likely grown more secure in yourself, less reactive to fear, more capable of trusting a process you can't fully control. What if this resolution is arriving now precisely because you've become someone capable of receiving it without recreating the same patterns that caused the obstacle in the first place? Growth like this rarely looks dramatic. It looks like healing quietly, without announcing it. It looks like releasing the need to control outcomes. It looks like trusting timing instead of forcing it. Every one of those quiet, internal shifts has been preparing the ground for whatever is beginning to resolve right now. Something is shifting right now, even if your daily life looks exactly the same on the surface. Have you noticed old tension easing recently, in a way you can't fully explain? Has a situation that once felt stuck suddenly started to feel more fluid, more open, more possible? These signs don't confirm a specific outcome. I want to be honest about that. No one, including me, can guarantee exactly how or when something will resolve. But these shifts often reflect something real happening internally, a quiet convergence between what's ending and what's finally ready to begin. What if your own intuition already senses this shift, even before circumstances fully catch up to it? Pay gentle attention over the coming days. Not with force, not with anxious watching, just with quiet awareness. Notice what feels lighter. Notice where old tension seems to be easing. You don't need to force resolution. You only need to remain open enough to notice it unfolding. I want to speak honestly to the part of you that's afraid to trust this shift. Maybe you've hoped an obstacle would resolve before, only to watch it remain firmly in place. That caution makes sense. It's not weakness, it's self-protection built from real disappointment. But I want to offer you something steadier than blind hope or guarded doubt, a quiet trust that doesn't collapse the moment things feel uncertain again. You are allowed to notice this shift without needing to control exactly how it unfolds. This isn't naive optimism. It's choosing peace over the exhausting habit of assuming nothing will ever change. Your story is shifting, not because I can promise you a specific outcome, a specific person, or a specific date. I can't, and I won't pretend otherwise. But your capacity for patience, trust, and quiet hope is deepening. And that matters more than any single moment. Let's imagine, gently, what it might feel like when this resolution eventually becomes visible in your life. Picture an ordinary day, nothing forced, nothing staged. And somehow, without anyone needing to force it, the tension that once stood between two people quietly dissolves. A conversation happens with unexpected ease. A misunderstanding finally clears. A distance that once felt permanent starts to feel, for the first time, like something that's closing instead of growing. Maybe the deeper resolution isn't only about circumstances changing. Maybe it's also about both people finally becoming secure enough in themselves that whatever remains no longer feels like an obstacle at all. Hold this image loosely, without gripping it too tightly. Whatever needed to resolve is already resolving. The rest will unfold in its own time. If any part of this reached something in you today, write, "I trust divine timing," in the comments below. Not because the words alone change anything by magic, but because naming what you believe, openly, has a quiet way of making it feel more solid inside you. You're not the only one hearing these words today, even though it feels like I'm speaking only to you. Somewhere else, right now, someone else is watching their own obstacles slowly loosen, carrying their own quiet hope they're almost afraid to admit out loud. Before you go, I want to leave you with this. Whatever has stood between you and something meaningful, know that its grip is loosening, in its own time, in its own way. You have not been forgotten in the waiting, and you have not been overlooked in the difficulty. You are allowed to rest today instead of bracing for more resistance. Whatever needed to resolve is already beginning to resolve, exactly as it should. Thank you for staying until the end of this. Thank you for letting your heart remain open enough to hope, even after everything that may have tried to make you guarded. That openness isn't naivety, it's exactly what will let you recognize this resolution when it finally comes into full view. You are not alone. You have never been alone. And whatever today was meant to awaken in you, I hope it settles into something steady and calm, a quiet trust that stays with you long after this video ends.